Welcome to TalkNorth.com. Thanks to our longtime producer, Brandon Morton. Please download before you listen. If you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. And please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. Two promo codes to be aware of. BiteSquad.com. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery free. And go to SodaStick.com, the great local apparel company. Use the promo code YouBetcha to get free shipping on any sized order. Roy, I'm going to make a plea to the Twins fan base, and I'm sure nobody's going to listen to me as usual, but I'm going to make the plea anyway. Can we please not spend what promises to be a very entertaining summer talking about nothing but money? Can we please talk about baseball? Here we have this. The Twins are off to this wonderful start. They have great young talent. We haven't even seen snow in the big leagues yet. Fernando Romero could be coming up in the next few months. They're doing this without maybe the two most talented people in the entire organization. They're a blast to watch. They're athletic. And every time I go on social media, all I see is, why don't they spend more money? I can't even disagree that they should spend more money. That's fine. You can make that argument. But is that all we're going to talk about all summer?
I hope not. I hope we talk about Jorge Polanco and Byron Buxton and Jose Barrios and ultimately Miguel Sano, and then just love watching and talk about Nelson Cruz still being a presence toward the end of his career. A lot of really good moves made, money spent. And the result is a really nice-looking lineup. So I hope that's what we talk about.
And so let's do that. But we're also going to address the big question, the question that is being asked everywhere on social media. This is Roy Smalley's Chin Music Show. This is our Twin Show on TalkNorth.com. Subscribe at iTunes, your favorite podcast app. Go to Talk North, check it out. Thanks to Berry Coffee, berrycoffee.com, Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin, and BiteSquad.com, promo code TalkNorth will get your first delivery free. So let's go to Tony Hoaglund, longtime friend of mine, friend of the programs, and a very former college baseball guy, a rational thinker. And he tweeted me today. He said, at this point, I don't get it. Why not go get Keuchel and Kimbrel? Really tough to give the Pohlads the benefit of the doubt. How can it be anything other than money? And Tony represents a huge portion of the fan base, at least a huge portion of the vocal fan base. So let's dive into that before we talk about actual baseball that we're seeing right now. And here's how I responded, Roy, and then I'll let you kind of arbitrate this. First of all, I've been arguing for months, and I think you have too, that Kimbrel would be a great fit here. We both said, go get this guy. He'd be the perfect fit. He would make you better. He'd make your entire bullpen better. He'd make your entire pitching staff better. He would also be a great presence on a young team to know that you get that lead, you're going to keep the lead. Here's my counter, though. My counter to my own argument. 30 general managers across baseball, all of whom are getting paid to win, looked at Kimbrel's demands this winter and said, way too expensive. And now that Kimbrel reportedly, has lowered his asking price or shortened the number of years, big league teams are looking at him and going, okay, now you're out of shape. You might have a bad attitude. You still want a lot of money. I don't know how well you can contribute this year. And you take all those things and double them for Keuchel because he's a starting pitcher who has to get really in pitching shape to contribute. So I would have loved it if they'd signed Kimbrel. I would have loved it even if they'd overspent on Kimbrel this winter. I'm not sure now's the time.
As the season goes on, it makes it less and less desirable, obviously. And remember, it's not about. Fans need to remember that it's not about the This is not about the Pohlads. I truly believe that if Derek Falvey went to Jim Pohlad and said, if we sign Kimbrel, let's say, I think that we are going to be in the playoffs. We're going to stand a great shot. We're going to have a great shot at being in the playoffs the next 3 years. And I think it's worth the money. I think Jim would write the check. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about Derek Falvey and Thad Levine, who are responsible for putting together a roster of players from the major leagues to A-ball that will make them competitive. And by competitive, I mean give them a shot at postseason every year for the next 5 or 6. So with that charge, then they're looking at what does signing somebody for that amount of money do to my ability, our ability to continue to get players that we need, to continue to pay the players that we have. How does that affect everything? It's not as simple as just saying it doesn't matter what you pay them. That's just your payroll is just going to be $15 million a year more every year. It's going to be they're going to pay Buxton more. They're going to start paying people, and it's not that easy, especially now that you're this far into the season for all the reasons that you mentioned. So I was as you know, 3 months ago, I wanted, or more, I wanted them to sign Kimbrel, even at that asking price. As we go on now, I think it becomes less and less important, just because you just don't know when he can start helping and what that amount of money does to your 5-year plan.
And I also want to make this clear. Sometimes I get painted as a defender of the Pohlads just because I sometimes say I understand that they want to do things within a certain budget, or I understand that they don't want to spend money that could hamstring them down the road. The same people who rip the Pohlads for not spending enough also rip them for spending too much on Joe Mauer. So it's always this moving target. I don't have a relationship with the Pohlads. I was really tough on Carl for a while in the 90s. The family was very offended by that. I briefly had a functional relationship with Bob Pohlad when he was running things. He would at least return my calls. Jim Pohlad and I haven't had a one-on-one conversation in probably 10 years. I don't have a relationship with them. I like covering good baseball teams. If I ever think there's a reason for them to spend money, I will advocate for it, just as I did with Kimbrel this winter, and just as I did with Nelson Cruz this winter, and they actually pulled what came through on that one. I really, though, agree with you. Analytical general managers who now rule the game are always looking for value, and they don't want to build a roster based on bad value because it will eventually collapse upon itself. Now, I don't necessarily think just overspending on a closer would do that to you, but if you want to get into this game, you have to understand their mindset. They're looking for, how much do I get for my buck? And they obviously don't think that Kimbrel gives them enough for their buck.
Or that the risk of arm injury or age or whatever is worth it. I mean, you look at the upside and the downside, and you say, if I do nothing with Kimbrel, and we talked about this last week, but I believe that this is the way that they're thinking about this. And I can't disagree with it too vehemently. I mean, you say, okay, if we don't sign Kimbrel and he goes somewhere else and is great, does that absolutely doom us to not making the playoffs? Well, not necessarily. And they have a team that has a chance, Kimbrel or not. If we sign Kimbrel and he's not good, is that way worse than not signing him and having him be good? Yes, it is. It really is, for that amount of money. So I mean, you have to look at what's the worst evil, what's the worst thing that could happen. Let's not do that. Just in case that happens, let's not do it. So I think that it's prudent to say there's a cost, there's a price at which it would make sense for us, and there's a price and a time frame this year where it doesn't make sense for us. The time frame is probably as much of an influencing factor now as the price.
Thanks to berrycoffee.com. We tell you about their products and their services all the time. Also, we want to remind you who they are, that it's a local company, started as a local company, and now you see their vans everywhere. Obviously, Roy knows Steve Brem, knows him as someone who runs a very green company, someone who's very responsible, someone who's very responsive. They won the OCS Operator of the Year award. They guarantee 100% satisfaction. They provide 24/7 service. And they're good people. And they were founded in 1979. They've earned a reputation for world-class service by providing fresh roasted coffee and a large variety of other refreshment services to the greater metropolitan business community. That's restaurants, bars, businesses. If you have people who work for you, if you have people who are coming into your office who want to be impressed, trust us. Get the Berry Coffee Bull Run blend and get some of their equipment, and you'll make a lot of people happy. Let us move on to what is actually happening on the field. Polanco and Rosario have become the two most fun people to watch in this lineup.
Well, no question about that. Yeah, full stop, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are terrific young players, no question about it, and starting to live up to what people thought they were going to be, especially Polanco. I think exceeding all expectations at the moment. Now he's in a hot streak. There will be some slumps, as there was with Rosario when he started the season. There'll be more for another slump or two for Rosario. There'll be some for Polanco. That's the nature of hitting in the big leagues. But what is really fun to watch is both of those guys. Rosario's always had the total belief in what a great hitter he is at whatever level, and it's cool to watch a guy stand in the box and you just know that he stands there thinking something great is about to happen here because I am really good at this. And that's just where his mind is, and it's deservedly so because his hitting mechanics and his talent are commensurate with that confidence and that arrogance and that inner arrogance, and so that's a joy to watch. Jorge Polanco, I believe, in like manner, has always believed that he could hit. From the moment I first saw him when he came up from A-ball and stepped in the box in Texas and ripped a triple down the right field line, you just saw that when he steps in the box, he's only thinking about, okay, I know how to hit. Let me do it here. Throw something in the middle of the plate and let me put a good swing on it. And he is maturing before our very eyes in terms of having a patient aggressiveness or aggressive patience, or however you want to say that. When he is getting better and better at laying off pitches that are not great pitches to hit, even if they're strikes early in the count, and getting balls that he can handle. And when he gets balls in the middle, kind of in the happy zone, boy, he just doesn't seem to miss them. And as I've talked about several times on Fox Sports on FSN, the thing that Ted Williams always said, rule number one is get a good ball to hit. And rule number two is if you're fooled, Ted said, if I was fooled, I just took it, but until I got two strikes. If I was fooled in any way, I just took that pitch. And the corollary to that is when you do get a good pitch, then you can't miss it because you'll probably get one per time at bat. And if you foul it back, then the screaming, double breaking, ugly pitch on the corner is going to strike you out. And what Polanco has done is narrow his focus into the middle of the zone, and we're seeing really fun results. I mean, he just squares it up when it's in the middle, and he aggressively waits for something in the middle. It's been great.
How are you feeling about the pitching staff? Because the Twins have scored so many runs, there hasn't been a ton of pressure. I mean, there's always pressure, and there are always situations, but they've had a pretty easy go so far. Do you think this pitching staff is built to sustain a winner?
I think they're still just a tad short, frankly. I really do. And so I understand why people are screaming to spend more money and go out and get people. I think our point about that really gets down to this: are these the right people? You just don't know. If you're absolutely convinced that someone's the right person, from either starter or reliever standpoint, I think you go get that person. But I think there are some serious doubts whether either one of the guys that we mentioned are the right people. But